speaker is Dr. Karina Zeidler, a family doctor, and having met her just once, incredibly passionate and very much looking forward to what she has to say. Dr. Karina?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today. Great to see everybody out there. My name is Karina Zeidler. I'm a family doctor in East Van, Cedar Cottage area, also another hot spot for COVID. And I'm also the parent of a 17-year-old over there and a 7-year-old over there who's starting in grade 3. So, anybody here unhappy about the current guidelines for school?
Yes.
Anybody?
Yes.
Yeah. And they keep telling us that it's just because we're anxious. It's like we have an anxiety disorder and it's flaring up, and that's what's going on. But you know what? You're not anxious. You are having a normal response to the current situation. And that situation is that the people who are in charge of our children's safety are failing to protect them. There you go. My whole back. Okay. I was asked to speak here today because I'm a doctor. And as a doctor, I'm supposed to have the authority to say, here's what's really going on. But the truth is, you don't have to be a doctor to see what's going on here. That's a term Bonnie Henry loves to use. What we are seeing here, well, you don't have to be a doctor to see that we are going into a situation this year that is so much more dangerous than it was last year. The new strain, Delta, is so much more contagious than the last one was. And it's airborne. And there is no debate about it being airborne. The scientific community has consensus over that. So what that means is we need the right kind of ventilation, not just updates, as they've been telling us they've done to our current ventilation. We need the right kind of ventilation to protect our children. We need everybody to be wearing masks. We need those options at home for vulnerable families or any family who doesn't feel safe going into the schools. And we need teachers to be mandated to be vaccinated, right? There was a news story about a teacher, unvaccinated, went into school with symptoms, and like 20 plus children got COVID because of that. So, you don't need to be a doctor to be able to notice any of that. And you know what else? You don't need to be a doctor to notice that our cases are skyrocketing. Yesterday, they announced 867 new cases. You know how many cases they had last year, same time of year? 124. That's 7 times more cases. And they're not looking too hard for Delta right now. You know how many testing centers they have here in Surrey? 1, that's right, for 500,000 people. 1 testing site. That means that they're not looking too hard, and that those numbers that they're announcing right now are huge underestimates of the actual current numbers of COVID. So, just because you wish for something not to be there does not make it so. What else? Well, you don't have to be a doctor to be able to notice what's going on everywhere else in the world. Down in the south of the U.S., in Alabama, similar population to us, they had 5,000 children come down with COVID last week. And that was up from 700 the week before, because they started school a couple of weeks ago. There's 50 kids that are currently in the hospital. Oh, but Dr. Zeidler, it's just because they're all unvaccinated down there. Okay, let's take a look at Scotland. They have the same kind of vaccination rates as we do. They also saw huge spikes in their COVID numbers after kids went back to school. hearing that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, which I don't really know why that's cool with anybody, but in particular, our kids, 12 and under, are not vaccinated. So doesn't that follow that if this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated and our younger children are not vaccinated, that makes this a pandemic of our children?
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally, Bonnie Henry loves to tell us that schools are safe places. COVID doesn't happen there. I saw a sign. I love that sign over there. Yeah, woo! They're not magic places where nothing happens. But she loves to try and reassure us that that's the case. And that, hey, if your kids get COVID, don't worry. It'll just be mild, and then it'll be over. Well, you don't really have to be a doctor to know that Delta hasn't been around that long. How do they know what the long-term implications of Delta are going to be on our children? We know children get long COVID, right? Anywhere from like 6 to 20% of children get long COVID. The American Academy of Pediatrics have put out guidelines in terms of follow-up if your children has had COVID, saying they should have at least one follow-up visit. Why? To be able to assess for residual symptoms. Like what? Well, respiratory symptoms, breathing symptoms that you can have for 3 months or more after you have COVID. And these are all symptoms that kids can get even if they had mild or asymptomatic infection, meaning no symptoms whatsoever. You can get respiratory symptoms, cardiac symptoms, so that's your heart, which COVID is particularly harsh on. There are neurodevelopmental symptoms, fatigue, brain fog, headache, lack of smell, mental and behavioral symptoms. And of course, we have no idea what's going to happen to those kids in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. Lots of childhood illnesses have long-term effects later in life. So, all of you guys can see that, right? Yeah. And you know what? Just the fact that all of you can see that already makes you more qualified to run this show than they are. Because would you underestimate the seriousness of Delta and the fact that it's airborne? Would you do that? No. Would you ignore the skyrocketing case numbers?
No.
How about the warning signs coming from all over the world?
No.
No? Okay. Well, here's the biggest question of all. So when it comes to the safety of our children, not just our own children, but all of the children in our community, every single one, when it comes to their safety, would you just close your eyes and just wish for Delta not to be the threat that it is? No, you wouldn't. And you know what? All of you, all of us here, we have the power to make our schools safe. We can do it. We can all do it together. And that means making them ensure good ventilation in our schools, making sure everyone is masked, making sure people have the right learning options, and making sure that everyone who needs to be is vaccinated. And if they need to delay opening schools for that to be ensured in all of our schools, not just the schools in West Van, but also the schools here in Surrey, out in Langley, all over our province, then that's what needs to happen. How do we make them do that? Well, we have to make them a bit uncomfortable. Just like the Surrey elementary school staff did last year when they did their walk-in, right? Yeah, woo, Surrey teachers! Have you guys seen John Horgan's Rockstar Room? Wouldn't you love to do a walk-in in there? Have 30 people in there with him and see if that doesn't make him a little uncomfortable? But you can also connect with other parents, decide that you're gonna keep your kids home from school, maybe even just for a day, maybe just for a week, and tell your schools you're not gonna send them unless they ensure that the schools are gonna be safe. Maybe you're just going to feel a little sick that first week of school and not be able to go into work. You should call your schools, call the school board, call your MLA. Together, we can make them do the right thing. We can make our schools safe for all of our children. There should be hopefully a sign-up sheet if you want to sign your email so we can let you know stuff that's going on, to be able to put more pressure on them. But thank you so much for coming out here, and keep up the good fight. We can do this. Woo!